whiskey. It's mysterious, it's flavorful, and let's face it, it's loaded with myths. From price to aging to where it comes from. Everybody and their mama got an opinion, but how much of it is actually true? Tonight, we're busting 5 whiskey myths you might have heard of on your journey. And by the end, you'll be armed with the facts to impress your guests at your next whiskey night. So grab your tinfoil hats and stick around. It's the Simple Whiskey Show.
Simple whiskey, Cyncere. Here to keep it 100, what's the ABV? Keep it simple. Simple whiskey, and be sweeter.
Welcome back to the Simple Whiskey Show. I'm Cyncere, and tonight, we're turning the Simple Whiskey Lounge into the set of Mythbusters. From overpriced unicorn bottles to whether or not you need ice in your glass. We're setting the record straight. And I'm starting the night off with Stag Jr., not in the Glencairn, glass full of ice. If you're serious about cutting through the BS and learning the truth, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive right in. Let's start with one of the biggest myths or assumptions that I used to have. Expensive whiskey is always better. We've all seen those $200 bottles locked away in glass cases, and while some of them may be amazing, the price tag doesn't always guarantee quality. Great whiskeys exist at every price point. Take Wild Turkey 101 for instance. It's only about $30 a bottle, packed with bold yet balanced flavors. Meanwhile, you can drop $500 on the bottle that just doesn't live up to the hype. And even though we don't always think about it, we tend to set higher expectations on bottles we spent an arm and a leg on. And in most cases, we're usually just setting ourselves up for disappointment. Truth is, whiskey is subjective. What's better ultimately comes down to your palate, not the price. I tried a $300 Scotch for the first time the other night, and I just wasn't feeling it. Sometimes you're paying for marketing, rarity, or even just a fancy bottle and fancy packaging. So don't be afraid to try something a little bit more affordable. Who knows, you might find your next favorite pour. An age-old debate, to ice or not to ice? That is the question. I made a newfound friend recently that definitely has an opinion on this one, and it may not be the one that you think. Purists will tell you whiskey should only be enjoyed neat. If this statement alone is true, I guess I'm a purist. But guess what? We couldn't be more wrong. Adding ice to whiskey is not one of the 5 deadly whiskey sins, it's science. Ice chills the whiskey, numbing some of the flavors while enhancing others. For higher proof bourbons, it can tame the burn and can even bring out a hidden sweetness or fruit notes. I will say, if you're sipping Stag Jr., for me, skip the ice and go neat, but tonight, YOLO. Cheers. But at the end of the day, your palate, your choice. Want ice? Add ice. Want water? Add a few drops of water in it. Drink your whiskey however you enjoy it. I think that's the first line in the whiskey Bible. No, I'm just kidding. Here's another myth that even I sometimes still fall for. Older whiskey has gotta be better. Sure, age matters. The barrel adds the complexity, deepens the flavors, and smooths out the rougher edges in some of these higher proof whiskeys. But there is a sweet spot. A 20-year-old bourbon might sound impressive, but sometimes it can be over-oaked and it loses its balance. Take Ben Holiday, for example. Aged 6 years, is perfectly balanced with oak and wheated sweetness. And on the other hand, some younger whiskeys can bring bold, fresh flavors without the lengthy aging process. So remember, age ain't nothing but a number. It always seems to come back to taste. This next myth falls on the same side as the last one, but a little more technical than taste-driven. All whiskey must be aged. While it is true that the aging is a huge part of the production of whiskey, not all whiskey spends years resting in a barrel. Legally, for something to be called a bourbon, it has to be aged at least 2 years. However, there's no rule that says all whiskey has to be aged or sit in a barrel for decades to be a whiskey. Take White Dog or Moonshine, for example. They skip the aging process entirely, which is why the liquid is clear instead of brown. The aging process is where the whiskey picks up not only most of its flavor, but also the amber color that we love. From the wood, the char, and even the climate. And I'll reiterate, sometimes too much aging can backfire. Over-oaked whiskey can become bitter or one-dimensional. So while aging is a critical part of whiskey's charm, not every great whiskey is aged for years. And not every bottle needs it to impress us. All right, here's a common misconception. Single malt is always Scotch. I had a guy argue with me the other day until he was blue in the face that single malts were all Scotch. While single malt whiskey is famously associated with Scotland, it's not exclusive to the Highlands. The term single malt just means whiskey that comes from a single distillery and is made entirely from malted barley. It does not have to come from Scotland. In fact, countries like Japan, Ireland, and even the US are crafting incredible single malt whiskeys. These countries are reinterpreting single malt in new and exciting ways, and of course, Scotch single malts like Macallan or Glenfiddich will always be iconic. Don't let the name fool you. Single malt can come from anywhere. The quality depends on the distiller, not the location. And there you have it, 5 whiskey myths busted. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what whiskey myths you've come across in your journey. And remember, whiskey is all about exploration. Whether you're sipping a budget bottle or a top shelf pour, the best whiskey is the one that makes you happy. So until next time, may your glasses be full and your stories be even fuller. Keep it simple. Cheers.